We recently released our economic development strategy, which is really focused on doing two things for Washington, D.C. for the next 5 years. One is growing our private sector economy, which continues this trend of continuing to diversify the economy in Washington, D.C. But the second point is we are focused on increasing economic opportunity in those census tracts that have greater than 10% unemployment in the District of Columbia. And that is a very specific goal in our economic development strategy, which is we are going to be focused on making sure that we target those areas that are hardest hit in the District of Columbia. And I think that's the first time that our economic development strategy in the city has really been focused on where we want to place economic incentives, where we want to be most impactful to Washington, D.C. The second thing that we're doing is that we know that increasingly technology and innovation jobs are becoming very popular in Washington, D.C. And earlier this year, we opened sort of the first, I think it's the first national inclusive innovation incubator, which is really focused around how do we take advantage of the fact that Washington, D.C. has one of the highest percentages of female entrepreneurs in the entire country. That deserves applause, by the way, if anybody's. We are also one of the highest proportion, have the highest proportion of people of color entrepreneurs in technology and innovation as well. And we want you increasingly to think, if you are thinking about starting a company, whether you're located outside of the district or whether you're located in the district, and you are a woman or a person of color, we want you in Washington, D.C. So we made a personal investment along with Howard University to create something that is really unique in the country, and I think that that speaks again to where we're putting our resources.
Yeah, I think this seems like a growing area of interest for WeWork. Is there something you all are doing in terms of inclusivity that is new?
Sure, I mean, I think that we look at all of the real estate and make good decisions based on where we think we can grow and support our neighborhoods that we're in. We're very inclusive, we want to be part of the community, we don't just walk into a space and try to insulate ourselves. So I think that your policy falls naturally into where we want to be. I think the other thing that we do, and we're pretty good at it, is you know, incubating the nonprofits, bringing them into our space, giving them the economic advantages of some discounting to allow them to be in the space so that they can start to incubate and affect the community that they're in. A lot of times that they're a nonprofit, a startup that's working directly in that particular neighborhood, and so they want to be based in that neighborhood and really be the headquarters for what they're trying to do. And most recently, and you may have seen and heard, you know, we've just done the Veterans in Residence launch on November 9th, and we're looking at, you know, hiring and employing 1,500 veterans, and we also have them in our space through a partnership with Bunker Labs so that they can actually come out of the military. They're veterans who can then start their own businesses and really start to return into society and provide in the communities that they are re-entering. So yeah, it's pretty exciting for us. And
I think it's interesting. You know, Brian was talking about trying to get. We have. Unfortunately, a wider disparity in terms of equality in the city, like a lot of big cities. And you'll notice, if you look at the demographics, that Wards 7 and 8 east of the river are behind in lots of economic categories from the rest of the city. So you hear Brian talking about he's trying to get a Starbucks to go east of the river. He's got a Busboys and Poets that's on the way at some point, hopefully, right?
Yes.
So like, would WeWork ever open in a neighborhood east of the river? I don't know how well you know DC or not, but like, yeah, I don't know what the metrics are that you all look at.
You know, I look at. I think that it's within the realm of possibility. I think it becomes a partnership. Yeah, I think it becomes a conversation that we need to have and make sure that, you know, it works for everybody. And I think that, you know, we have a vested interest in DC, and if this helps advance DC, then I think that there's opportunities for us to explore, you know, further expansion. I mean, we're not walking away from the city of DC, and we're here to support it. So we'll figure out the right appropriate ways to be beneficial to the community.
Yeah. What's it like for you, Shawn, trying to be an inclusive part of the Southwest neighborhood?
Well, I think, well, two points to that end. I think the project itself being part of the Deputy Mayor's portfolio for economic development projects for the district has allowed us to do things that are fairly progressive as far as affordable housing, jobs for district residents. And I think that sort of investment in the east of the river communities in job creation is very important. We've spent $350 million on our project alone with district residents district-owned businesses rather. We've put district residents to work, over 600 during the construction phase of the project. And over 30% of those were east of the river, which is, part of the deputy mayor's mandate. It was part of the Anacostia Waterfront Initiative, which many may remember was created back in the early 2000s, late 1990s with the earlier administrations. So I think that was an important part of our project. The affordable housing goes down to 30% of the area median income. That's $30,000 or thereabouts for the 30% tranche, and then 60% AMI. We have workforce housing for workforce residents. So there's a broad spectrum of housing at Southwest.
Yeah.
And as far as being inclusive, Southwest is actually in Ward 6, not Ward 7 and 8. But the neighborhood in Ward 6, Southeast and Southwest, is probably the strongest that I've worked with in the district. And they feel passionately about all the development that's going on in both the Wharf and the Southwest Quadrant, but also the Yards and the Capitol Riverfront District. It's seeing an explosion of development projects. It's probably the most active ward construction-wise in the district right now. And they're actively involved in trying to make sure that families can stay in their ward, that schools are improved, and that the general quality of life is improved for that entire area of the city.
Yeah.